Welcome to the show, Baladan. We are covering the story of Sophia Rashid, the young woman that she went to Stillwater one Saturday with her daughter, and she was harassed by gang groups, the Aryan Cowboys Brotherhood, as her story and the police report says. And media cover was kind of miscued. They presented her as, just a controversial or incident, and she didn't feel that was the case because she thought her life was threatened, and she was frightened. Kozlowski is the mayor of Stillwater, talking about the incident that happened to a Muslim woman, Sophia Rashid, last month, been facing gangs, Aryan Cowboys, Brotherhood, and a hate group. And as you heard,
How are you?
hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thanks so much for joining. I just want to start off the bat, and I'm glad that we have a guest with a last name that as difficult as mine. So let's go through this. Let's start with sharing some of how we feel about this, because Stillwater for me, I've been here almost 40 years, and Stillwater was the place to go for me. It was
Right.
a lot of immigrants, and it's a tourist town. It is a beautiful town, has a lot to offer. I think I have my first girlfriend lived in Stillwater, and I'm proudly saying this. So I have a lot of vested emotion and affinity to the city, but I haven't been there for quite some time. But from my reading, the demographics and the city culture, the city, since the whole northern part of the state has been changing, and a lot of incident, anti-minority and Islamophobic, and very beautifully, very nice. Is there any development of the story that we don't know about yet?
I don't think so. It took a few days after the incident, before Sophia and I were able to chat, and we had a beautiful hour plus long conversation. And she told me about it, and it was a really good talk. She's a pretty amazing young woman. She's impressive. She's very impressive. Very cool. I want her to, I really want her to live in Stillwater. I'd love it if she moved to town.
Yeah, I know.
She was cool.
She used to come Stillwater when before the burqa, and before she converted to Islam. It was very safe to her. But I think the question that we raise here is Stillwater safe for Muslims and minority now? I think that's general question, and I don't know if even a fair question. But is Muslim minority fair anywhere when we have
Right.
Trump in the warehouse?
Yeah, Stillwater just by sheer data is definitely one of the safest communities in the metro. I mean, we don't have assaults here. We don't have robberies here. We don't have, I mean, it's a busy month if there's a car stolen in Stillwater. I mean, so it's a safe community. I mean, we're dealing with, you know, the same things that everybody else is dealing with as far as the opioid crisis, mental health issues, domestic assault, stuff like that every community unfortunately is dealing with, and seems to be on the rise right now. But as far as gang activity, criminal activity, I mean murders, things like that, I mean, it doesn't happen in Stillwater. And so I'd argue that it's a very safe place to be, in spite of what Sophia had to deal with when she came here to visit. It really is. When I first heard about it, after I got done, being sick to my stomach, the first thing I did was I reached out to my police chief, our county sheriff, and our county attorney, just to see, like, I didn't know, I haven't witnessed anything like this. I haven't heard of any types of incidences like this. I've been on city council for almost 8 years now, or almost, yeah, God, almost, yeah, I guess it's almost 8 years. And I grew up in Stillwater, but I did leave and moved, all over the place. And I've only been back for 11 years. So I'm kind of, initially I was rediscovering my city again. But I had never heard anything like this. I mean, it was a surprise. It was sickening that a woman, especially a woman and her daughter, didn't feel safe in our town. So the first thing I did was reach out to, the people that have been here, longer in law enforcement and in our justice system. And so, do we have these types of, is this a problem here, right? Do we know who these people are? Have they ever been here before? What reports do we have? Is this something that, is this something that I've missed somehow? Is this something that's happening in our community that I've missed? And the answer was no. I mean, we have never seen this group before. I'm hopeful that we'll never see them again. And as far as our department goes, I mean, I had them go back, as far as they could. I think it's been about 10 years that they've had to report to the state and to the Fed any instances that involve like hate crimes or discrimination, things like that have to be reported, even if they're not charged. And we've had one in 10 years, and it involved what my department thinks are a bunch of kids spraying, hateful graffiti at a Catholic church. So I think it took everybody by surprise. But really, I don't want to say in a positive way. I think for some people, it was positive for me, in seeing how our community reacted to this, seeing what those kids at Leo's did to help Sophia out. That represents who we are. That our kids were willing to do that. These are young kids that work at the malt shop, right? I mean,
Well, well, it's nice to use your white privilege to help them. But well, let's look at those Aryan cowboy brotherhoods. Who are they?
I mean, basically everything you just said. I mean, I know as much that they're, the website that lists them as a hate group that describes who they are. I don't think, I mean, as far as I know, they don't have a website kind of explaining who they are. Our police, I asked one of Governor Walz's aides to give me more information on this specific group as well as others. And I've yet to hear back. I probably should follow up with them and just see where they're at, because in Stillwater, we don't have like a gang task force that monitors this stuff, right? I mean, we're a small city. So I think you probably have more information than I do on who these people are, but I frankly have no clue. I mean, they seem to be a biker gang that are of people that come out of prison. They're not in Stillwater. I think I read or heard somewhere that they're in Rochester, Minnesota, and then also somewhere way up in northern Minnesota. As far as we know, they've never been in our city before.
Wow. So a lot of things the mayor does, not a lot of people know about it. And from your website, I like Stillwater, the birthplace of Minnesota, and probably historically that's what it is. And but it really represented the Midwest and a combination of mixed cultural that represent the state as a whole. But as a mayor, you are the head of the state, of the city. You are the head of the legislative, and you have a lot of weight and leverage to make decision about the police and laws and everything.
It depends. It depends on what it is.
Okay.
There are different classes of cities in Minnesota, and some have more authority to do things than others. So it definitely depends on the scenario.
So as a tourist city, I mean, having a safe city, you probably have a lot of leverage there, and it concerns you that people feel that the city is not safe anymore. And so with this incident, I know it's not, probably first incident is not something happened every day. So what next? What sort of plan are you having to make this city a welcoming city to minorities, and especially this time where we have people are putting their life online to protest racism and police brutalities?
It's hard because as the mayor of a small city, I don't have any staff. It's essentially a volunteer job, right? I get paid $300 or $400 a month or something for this. It's definitely not my full-time job because I can't live on $300 a month. So I've got a business that I run with my wife, and trying to manage that through a pandemic has been a little bit of a challenge as well. But I think the first thing is just to focus on the safety of our residents and our visitors, right? And so we've got to make sure, and when I've spoke on this, down at different rallies, and when I talk to the Chamber of Commerce, we need to make sure, and it's really hard, and I would appreciate your input on this as well, because I don't know what other buttons and lever when it comes to racist bike gangs. What I've been saying is that you need to call 911. If we see hate groups, I don't care if you're wearing a hood or a swastika or whatever variation of that garbage bullshit it is. If anybody in our community sees that, my cops need to have eyes on them. They don't want these people in our town. They can't arrest them for being here. They can't arrest people for being assholes, and being racist and being bigots. But we can keep our eyeballs on them to make sure they don't do anything like this, that they don't threaten or intimidate anybody just by standing there. Frankly, the shitty part about these assholes is that they know exactly where the line is. They know to dress up in their costume and look all mean and intimidating, and not to say anything, right? We're not going to threaten directly because that's against the law, but we know how to make somebody feel threatened without actually breaking the law. And so the first thing has been, like, to me, it's like, and when I talk to my police chief and our sergeants and our captains, they're like, they don't want these people in our town. They're like, we need to know. Someone needs to call us. We'll come down there and we'll stand there and we'll eyeball them and make sure they're not doing anything. And they're not going to like that, and they're going to leave. To me, that's about the only thing we can do specific to these types of incidents. And so when I've said that, with the climate, and I understand where we're at right now with the murder of George Floyd, people are like, I don't want to call the cops. Oh. And that's when I'm like, I frankly, Ahmed, I don't know.
Different call. This is a different call.
Right. I mean, so it's like, I don't want to these people are scary, right? I don't expect, a bunch of, teenagers to take on a bike gang in downtown Stillwater. I kind of want the guys with guns to show up in this scenario. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge, because that's been my message is, if we see hate groups in town, call the cops. Our cops want to have eyes on these guys. We're not going to let them roll through town with impunity, intimidating people by their sheer presence. Because they are, they're self-proclaimed criminal organizations, so, you call the cops, right? So, that's kind of the first thing. And, fortunately, since then, we haven't had any incidences like that, but that's kind of message number one. The second thing, Ahmed, is one of the other, kind of positives or heartwarming things that came out of it is I had, 20, 30 business owners reach out to me and say, do I have a legal right to refuse them service in my business, in my bar, in my restaurant? And the answer is yes, you do. And so, so that was nice. I don't know that, it's nothing, obviously we can force on our business owners, but a lot of them raised their hand and asked if they could, and I think that's a positive step. I really wanted to provide our business owners and our Chamber of Commerce guidance and how exactly the law works around that. But with being able to deny somebody service, right? Because there's a lot of reasons why you can't do it, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in a burqa, if you've got dark skin, right? You can't, but there are things with hate speech and offensive symbols that you do have the right to discriminate against. And
well, isn't it the business has to provide a safe environment for the client, the customers?
Right. And so, but I was cautioned or basically, told that it would be bad for me to give legal advice to individual businesses on that. So I've got to pass that one off to somebody else that can do it, because I'm not.
I don't know what's wrong with 2020. It just keeps on giving, and unfortunately for a lot of people, We've been dealing with so many things, yeah, with the virus and racism virus and economic virus and all of this. So how do you guys?
I mean, I think we're fortunate to have the beautiful river, and we've been blessed with, beautiful weather. Um, Most years, really since 2000, because of climate change, the river's been flooding more frequently and for longer durations than usual, and that always has a pretty negative impact on downtown when our park is flooded and some of our trails are flooded. We haven't had any of that, thankfully, this year. The river's been nice and quiet, and the grass is growing in the parks. We just opened, we just completed the Loop Trail, which is the trail that goes over the new bridge that was built a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then across the Wisconsin Bluff down into downtown Stillwater, across our 1931 historic lift bridge. That was all completed this year. And so, I think we're doing, we're doing better than our neighbors, I bet. It hasn't been the perfect tourist season, absolutely not. But we've gotten pretty creative, and we've seen a lot of people downtown. And I think because of the virus, one thing my wife pointed out to me, if she was here, I'd ask, is the last day of Ramadan?
Oh, the Eid,
Yeah,
they celebrate the Eid. The Eid
yeah,
is it's when they break their fast, celebrate. You're fasting a whole month, so you celebrate food. So
right.
we thank you so much, Ted, for coming and spending this time. It's very reassuring that we hear this from the mayor of Stillwater. It's a beautiful city, and it has a lot to offer, and it just was very unfortunate to have this, and it is not very unusual that things happen in a small town these days, but we are glad that the mayor of that town shared our views and welcoming our community, especially in this time where we really need the support. You hear about the assault on the Asian American community, the people second and third generation, they've been singled out, and hate it's been diverted from hate on Muslims and hate on blacks. Now it's hate on the Asian. I don't know when this is gonna end. There is always a group out there, and there is always people out there out ready to hate somebody.
Yeah. I mean, you can't fix assholes in this country. I mean, you're always going to have people that, for whatever reason, have to deflect their own inadequacies onto somebody else to make themselves feel better. I mean, I don't know that we'll ever be rid of that, unfortunately. But
no, I mean, people have the right to be an asshole. People have the right to be a stupid and idiot. But when we have culture, when we have leadership, that they share that same
right,
views in the White
yeah,
House,
well, it definitely
it's
makes it more challenging.
Yeah.
Well, I would love it. I think if it's been so long, you need to come back. If you drive out here from Minnetonka, I'll buy lunch.
Thank you. Well, reassuring us, and thank you so much for your leadership in that town, and keep up the good work. And I'm sure we'll meet. We'll meet, and I'll come to your town, and I make sure I'll call you, and we'll have a coffee or have something.
I'd love to. That'd be great. That'd be
Thank
great.
you so much. We'll see you then, Ted.
All right. Take care, buddy. Thank you.